Hi, welcome to week 6 of Pilates. So today we're just going to be working a little bit on single leg strength in standing, and then a bit of hip work in lying. So let's get started. Just bring your feet together, really close together, and then take toes out, heels out, so your feet are hip width apart. We're going to come up nice and long through the legs, just trying to soften the knees gently, and we're just going to gently roll the weight through the heels and then through the toes. So just rocking one way and the other, just taking the weight through the different areas of the feet, forward and backward. Good. And come to that midpoint where you're equal through both sides of both forefoot and hind foot, and then gently just taking that weight left to right. Good. And coming back to that midpoint, so you've got equal weight through left and right legs. So we're going to lengthen up through the legs, keep the knees slightly soft, so just make sure you're not locking those kneecaps right back, but just keeping the knees soft. We're going to think about that pelvis. Imagine it's a big bucket, marble at the bottom of the bucket, and we're just going to gently roll that marble forwards and backwards, arching and hollowing through the lower spine. So rolling that bucket forwards and backwards. Good. Marble rolling one way and the other. And we're going to come to that midpoint where that marble's at the bottom of that bowl. So lengthening gently through the back, pulling up gently through the front, coming to that midpoint. And then from there, that nice neutral pelvis, we're going to stack the spine up. Think about lengthening through the back of the spine, through the back of the neck. So make sure you're not pointing your chin up, lengthen through the back of the neck. Imagine you've got holding an orange in between chin and chest. We're just going to loosen off through your shoulders. Good. And then back the other way. Good. And lift those shoulders up, glide them back, and just drop them down away from your ears. So you've got nice wide collarbones, shoulders nice distance away from your ears, and your spine's nice and long, knees are soft. We're going to engage through those core muscles. So we're going to take a breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to pull up through the pelvic floor, in through the belly button, and we're going to come into toy soldier. So breath in. As you breathe out, bring your arms up to shoulder height. Breath in. As you breathe out, lifting one arm opposite heel. In as you come back to the center, out as you come through the other side. Keeping those shoulders down, keeping that pelvis nice and neutral, marble at the bottom of that bowl. Breathing out and in. Good. Out and in. Keeping everything from pelvis to shoulders nice and still. Good. Breathing out and in. Good. Those core muscles switched on, shoulders down away from your ears. We're going to do a couple more on either side. Good, last one. And relax down. Good, well done. And then we're going to just have a little loosen off. Bring your feet really nice and close together. We're going to keep that equal weight through both forefoot, hind foot, left and right legs to start with. Soft knees, pelvis nice and neutral. Lengthen through the spine, shoulders down. We're going to engage through those core muscles. So breath in as you breathe out, pull up through the pelvic floor, in through the belly button. You're going to peel your right heel up off of the floor and come out in front of you. And then that left hand's going to come out too. So we're going to come into almost like a running, slow motion running position. And then we're going to try and keep the pelvis and upper body nice and still as you come into that running. So you can either hold on for balance if you're finding that hard balance-wise, or if you're really struggling to control that, you can just come into like an opposite arm and leg walk as well, okay? So either coming into that running position or just keeping both feet on the floor and just doing that walking. You're going to use that bottom muscle to extend that leg behind you, making sure you're not arching through the lower back. So keep that nice neutral position. Softening on the left. Keep breathing. Good, keep that control, keep the shoulders down, core switched on. Let's do a couple more. Good, well done. And relax down. Have a little loosen off through the legs. And hard work on that standing leg. Good. And then again, come up, feet together, nice and tall, soft knees, pelvis nice and neutral, lengthen through the spine, through the back of the neck, shoulders down and back. Right knee nice and soft, left heel peels up. Coming up in front, right hand in front. Coming back and forward. So keeping up nice and tall on that standing leg. Make sure you're not dropping out to the side or lifting up through that hip to keep that balance. Gently hold on if you need to, or coming into walking where you're doing an opposite heel lift, if that's slightly more achievable for you. So go with what you feel comfortable doing. You must have a little bit of a challenge, but not pushing too hard. So keep that right knee nice and soft, spine up nice and tall. Keep breathing. Good. Keep that control. Use that bottom cheek to bring that leg back, not your back to extend that leg. Good. Last couple. Good, well done. And relax down. Good. Have a little loosen off through those legs. Again, it's hard work on that standing leg. And we're going to come into our Superman position. So we're going to bring those legs really close together again. Soft knees, up nice and tall, pelvis nice and neutral, core switched on. So breath in as you breathe out, engage through those core muscles. And then from there, we're going to just take your right leg out behind you. So keep that soft knee, so almost bend that knee a bit on the left. And then from there, you're going to try and make from the heel all the way through to your fingertips, one long straight line. And then from there, keep those core muscles switched on, keep that spine nice and long, and also the neck nice and long. So don't lift your chin up, but lengthen through the back of the neck. We're going to bring right knee, elbows together, and then lengthen away. And you can tap your toe onto the floor for a little bit of balance, or you can gently hold on for a little bit of balance. We're going to really try and keep the pelvis nice and still. So it's easy to try and reach back and twist or lift through this back leg. We're going to keep those toes pointing down towards the ceiling. Down towards the ceiling. I don't know where that came from. Down towards the floor, heel up towards the ceiling. So from there, coming in, lengthening. Sorry about that. I don't know where my brain was. Lengthening through, coming back in, lengthening through. If you want something harder, then as you're lengthening through, you can go more parallel to the floor, coming in and out. Again, keep those toes down towards the floor. Lengthen through, coming back. Or keep it into that toes on the floor. Soft knee on the left, don't lock that knee out, but always keeping that pelvis nice and neutral, whichever position you're in. Good. Last couple. Good, all done. And relax off. Good. Again, have a little loosen off. I believe I said toes up towards the ceiling. I really didn't mean that, sorry. Just confuse matters. Right, so feet nice and close together. Bend that right knee, left leg out behind you. Pelvis nice and neutral, core switched on, so pull up through the pelvic floor, in through the belly button, arms up long, okay? Shoulders down away from your ears. And either from there, elbows and knee together, then coming back toe onto the floor. Good. Toes pointing down to the floor, heel up towards the ceiling. And if you want to make it harder, parallel to the floor, lengthening through this way. All coming up. Keep that spine nice and long. Good. Let's do a couple more. Good, well done. And relax off. Good. Let's just stretch out through the legs a little bit. So we're going to stand on the right leg, cross your left in front. You're going to stick that right hip out to the side. Reach your left fingertips down towards the floor. And then if you're happy to, you're going to reach that right arm up and over. Big opening stretch through that right side. Good, breathe with it. Push that hip out to the side. Good. Again, hold on to something if you need to. One more breath in there. Gently coming up and over. And cross the legs. Good. And we'll go through to the other side. So stand on the left leg, cross your right foot in front. Left hip out to the side. Reach those fingertips down. Coming up and over. Pushing that left hip out to the side. Feel that stretch through the outside of the left side. Just hold it for one more breath. And then gently coming up and over. Good, well done. Bring those feet hip width apart again. Come up nice and tall. We're going to come into our roll down. So if you're happy with a roll down, you come down all the way to the floor. We'll just do a couple of modified roll downs if you haven't done them for a while. So we're going to drop those shoulders down, pelvis neutral, soft knees. And then just start off chin to chest, rolling down one vertebra at a time. Controlling down through the spine. Keep that pelvis up tall for as long as possible. Core muscles switched on. Hands to knees. And then from there, bend the knees. Go a big curve. Think cat stretch. Tail tucked under, chin down. And then lifting up through the other way. Lowering belly button, breastbone. Curl back down into that big stretch. Lengthen through the legs. And then stack up the spine. One vertebrae at a time as you come up. Really think individual vertebrae, one at a time, rolling down through the spine, hands to knees, bend the knees, big cat stretch, lengthen up into that cow, and then coming back down again, big curl through the spine, lengthen up. And you can either carry on with those, just getting a little bit of mobility in the spine, or if you're happy to, we're going to do a full roll down, so chin to chest. Keep that core switched on, pelvis nice and neutral for as long as possible, rolling through the spine. That tailbone tucked down for as long as possible. You can't go any further, and then start to tip forward through the pelvis. Good. And when you stack up, pelvis comes up first. So squeeze through the bottom and stack the pelvis up nice and neutral, and then lengthening one vertebra at a time as you stack the spine up. Shoulders back, back of the neck nice and long, so don't lift chin up towards the ceiling, but lengthening the back of the head up. And again, rolling through. And stacking up, core switched on. Good, well done. Okay, and then we're going to come back down, come down onto the mat. So from here, we're going to make sure that your feet are in line with your knees, hips and shoulders. So not too wide, not really close together, but just equal width with your hips. And then we're going to come down onto our back. So your shoulders, hips, knees and feet should be in 2 tram lines if you draw a line between all of them. We're going to just make sure the back of the neck again is nice and long. So make sure your chin's up towards the ceiling, lengthen through the back of the neck. Shoulder blades, just snuggle them down underneath your ribs so your distance between ears and shoulders is nice and long. And then lift your hips up and come down onto the mat. Good. And then from there, I'm going to get you to imagine you've got a marshmallow in between your belly button and your, underneath your belly button, between your spine. I can't talk today, I'm really sorry, put my teeth in. Marshmallow underneath the belly button, between the spine and the mat, and underneath the breastbone is a 2p coin between your spine and the mat. And we're going to squash down onto them. So push down with the belly button, feel those tummy muscles work, and the pressure on your back increase. And then we're going to go the other way. So we're going to keep the bottom and shoulders in contact. I'm going to lift up so you can just slide your fingertips underneath your back, lengthening through the tummy and working through the back muscles as they lift away from the mat. And then again, flattening down onto that marshmallow, that 2p coin, lifting up and away. And then come halfway down onto that marshmallow. So squash the marshmallow at least halfway. If you know you arch through your lower back, squash down a little bit more. And just make sure that underneath your breastbone, your spine's in contact with that 2p coin. Okay? And just take a bit of a mental note of the pressure that you feel of your back onto the mat in that position, because we're going to try and maintain that same pressure all the way through. If you feel like you're starting to lift away from the marshmallow 2p coin, you need to just rein it in and bring it back a little bit so you can really control and keep that same pressure down. Otherwise your back will start hurting, and we don't want that. So we're going to come into scissors. So take a breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to gently pull up through the pelvic floor, down through the belly button. Breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to float one leg to tabletop. Good. Breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to bring the other leg up to join it. Keeping that same pressure onto that marshmallow, that 2p coin. Breath in. As you breathe out, tap one foot down. Breathe in, come back up. Good. Breathe out, tap the other leg down. In, come back up. So if you just tap the toe fairly close to your bottom, it makes it slightly less load through the back. You should be able to maintain that same pressure onto that marshmallow, that 2p coin. If you're feeling like you're lifting a little bit, squash down a little bit harder onto that marshmallow and then tap down from there. If you want to make it harder, then breathe out, tap down, breathe in, swap. Breathe out, one tap down, breathe in, the other leg tap down. And again, if you want to make it harder again, you can just then bring your arms off the floor, so make sure you're not using them as support. And from there, if you want to load it even more, but making sure you're keeping that same pressure down onto the back onto the mat, you can tap further away. So the longer those legs tap down, it might be that you tap the heel as opposed to the toes, the harder it works through here. So you should feel those tummy muscles working, but not lifting away from that marshmallow, that 2p coin. Remember, you can keep it here, one leg at a time. Or you can lower and you can swap one leg and the other. Good, keep breathing. Good, let's do 2 more on either side. Last one. Good, well done. Lower one foot to the floor, lower the other one down to join it. Just have a big lengthen through arms, lengthen through legs, and a nice stretch through. As you breathe in, reach your fingertips and toes away from one another, and you might lift away from that marshmallow, that 2p coin. As you breathe out, relax the arms and legs and flatten the back down onto the mat. Good, breathing in. Breathing out. Good. One more time, big breath in. And out. Good, well done. Bring the arms back down by your side, bend one leg up, bend the other leg up. So we're going to come into double leg stretch. So make sure you come down onto that marshmallow, down onto that 2p coin, that same pressure that you had through your back before we started the exercises. And then from there, breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to pull up through the pelvic floor, down through the belly button. And then from there, I'll go through just keeping the feet on the floor to start with, and then I'll show you that next level up. So we're going to float the arms straight up towards the ceiling. Keep the collarbones wide, keep those shoulders down away from your ear. And then from here, breath in. So you breathe out, we're going to lengthen one leg, both arms away, circling around with the arms and coming back up. So imagine drawing two big semicircles with your arms, and you can make them as big or as small as you want, depending on your shoulders and how it feels, and making sure you're not lifting off that 2p coin, that marshmallow. Breathing out as you lengthen, in as you circle around. If you want to make that harder, breath in as you breathe out, float one leg to tabletop. Breath in as you breathe out, bring the other leg to join it. Keep that same pressure down onto that marshmallow, that 2p coin. Breath in as you breathe out, lengthen one leg, both arms away. Circle around and come back up. Breathing out, lengthen the other leg away. Circle around and come back up. Breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in. And again, so when you point up towards the ceiling, it's slightly less slow through the back. If you point away further, more parallel to the floor, it's more pressure, more load. So work where you're comfortable. Make sure you're not lifting away from that marshmallow, that 2p coin. Find a position that makes you work, that you can control. And remember, if you need to, if you're really feeling like you can't keep down on that marshmallow, breathing out and in, keeping the feet close to the floor, one foot in contact all the time. So find a level that suits you, work with it. Good. Last couple on either side. Good, well done. Hug those knees in towards your chest. Good. And then pop your hands onto your knees, do a big circle of those knees over your chest. Good. Back in the other direction. Good. And then hug those knees in towards your chest one more time. Lower one leg to the floor, bring the other one down to join it. Good. So from there, again, just make sure the neck's nice and long, shoulders snuggled down under the ribcage, collarbones nice and wide. You're going to lift the bottom up and just lower down and come onto that 2p coin and that marshmallow, and nice and neutral through here. And we're going to work on just a little bit on the hip. So this shouldn't, you might get a bit tight through here, but it shouldn't be painful through the hip. So if you feel like you need to just have a little bit of a stop and a stretch, you can do. If you feel, I'll show you an easier level as well. So we can just work on loading the hip just as much as you're comfortable to, so it's strengthening it, but not so it's irritating it. So just be a little bit careful. So onto that marshmallow, onto that 2p coin. Breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to pull up through the pelvic floor, down through the belly button. Breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to float your left leg to tabletop. So you can just work here, tapping that leg down and coming back up again. And you can tap down as far away as you feel comfortable. So again, if you tap nice and close, that should be slightly easier. If you tap further away, it gets harder. Or if you're happy to, you can lengthen through the leg, and we're going to tap heel towards the floor. It doesn't have to go all the way to the floor. Breathing out, tap down, breathing in, coming back up. And it might be that you just keep the knees slightly soft at the top because your hamstrings are a bit tight. That's fine. Go with what you feel, again, is comfortable for you. Breathing out as you know, keeping that same pressure down on that marshmallow, that 2p coin. Breathing out, lower down. Keep that right leg nice and soft. So you're not clawing those toes into the mat. You're not pushing down too hard through that right leg. And you're trying to keep that pressure through your back the same. So especially that right and left side of your back, you're going to keep the pressure the same. Make sure you're not lifting off that marshmallow. 2 more. Good, well done. And then bend that leg, lower the foot down onto the floor. Just make sure you're nice and neutral. So you might have found that you crept onto that left side a little bit more. So just come back into that nice neutral position, equal weight through both sides of the back, pushing down onto that marshmallow, that 2p coin. Breath in, reset through the core muscles, pulling up through the pelvic floor, down through the belly button. Breath in as you breathe out, float the leg either to that tabletop position, or if you're happy, we're going to come all the way through. Breathing out as you tap down, in as you come back up. Keeping the toes on the left, nice and soft, not crawling down onto the mat with that left leg. And keeping that same pressure down your back onto the mat. Making sure that right side of the back isn't feeling more pressure than the left side of the mat. Remember, if you need to come into that tapping down in this position with the knee slightly softer, then work where you're comfortable. It might be that you just come halfway down, then you feel like you're going to creep off of that marshmallow, and you come back up again. Let's do 3 more. 2 and 3. Good, well done. Come to tabletop, lower down. Just have a little lengthen through arms, lengthen through legs, have a stretch through. Good. And then if your hips are comfortable too, we're going to come into another hip exercise. So bring your arms back down by your side. And if you're feeling it through the hips a little bit at the moment, then maybe you want to, instead of doing this next exercise, maybe you just want to come into hip twist level 1, where you step through the core, keep the pelvis nice and neutral, and we just do a little knee fall out to the side and coming back up to the centre. But you're going to imagine you've got a spirit level balanced on your hips, and you're going to keep that spirit level really nice and still. So if you're starting to feel it through the hip flexors a little bit, then stop and come back into this hip twist level 1, where you're just doing one leg and the other leg out to the side. But if you're happy to come into that same position we were in before, so pelvis nice and neutral onto that marshmallow 2p coin, breath in as you breathe out, engage with the core muscles. Breath in as you breathe out, float that left leg to tabletop. And again, you can either keep it at tabletop and come out to the side slightly, or you can lengthen the leg. And if you imagine that leg's like the hour hand on a clock, pointing up to 12 o'clock, going to bring it out to 11 o'clock. So that whole leg comes out to the side, not just the toes. So quite often people just want to point the toes out to the side, but actually we're going to take that whole leg out to the side. And then tapping down, so it's coming to tap down at the edge of the mat. So keeping that pressure the same through your back onto the mat, breathing out as you tap, in as you lift. So it's easy for you to, again, put more pressure through that left side than the right on the back, through the back, but actually we're going to try and keep it as equal as possible. And keep your right knee pointing up towards the ceiling. So again, to counterbalance, we'll want to take the knee out to the side, keep that knee pointing up towards the ceiling, try and keep the toes soft on that right side. Pressure through your back as equal as you can, side to side, and make sure you're not lifting off of that marshmallow 2p coin. Remember, if you want to come into knee bent, it's slightly easier, or you can come into hip twist here, where we're just dropping one knee out to the side. And actually you can alternate side to side as we do that. So last couple. Good, 1. And then come back to 12 o'clock, lower to tabletop, and come back down. Good. Reset, make sure you've got equal pressure through left and right side of the back. Breath in as you breathe out, engage through the core muscles. Breath in as you breathe out, float the right leg to tabletop. And again, you can either keep it there, you can lengthen all the way through, breathing out, and bring that leg from 12 o'clock out to 1 o'clock. So again, it's the hour hand. Not at 12, but we're going to bring it out to 1 and tap that heel down in line with the outside edge of the mat on the right. Breathing out as you tap down, in as you come up. You want to work in tabletop where that leg's bent at 90 degrees at the knee. You can tap there. If that's too much through your hip flexors, then carry on with your hip twist. One leg and then the other. Okay? Can keep that pressure the same through your back. Soft toes on the left. And that left knee pointing up towards the ceiling. Let's do 3 more. 2 and 3. Good, well done. Come back to tabletop. Lower down, and again just have a big lengthen through arms, lengthen through legs, and a stretch through. You just hug your left leg in towards your chest. Try and squash that marshmallow as much as you can underneath your belly button. And if your right leg's nice and long, you might feel a little bit of a stretch for the front of the right hip as you do that, as well as kind of coming into that flexion in that left hip as well. So just trying to open up a little bit through the front of the hip. But really think about squashing that marshmallow underneath the belly button in between the spine and mat. And that should feel like it's just opening up through that right hip. Good. Just hold it for 1 more breath. And then come down onto the floor, slide that right leg up, lengthen through the left leg, and then bring the right knee in towards your chest. And again, so lengthen through the left leg, push that marshmallow down, squash that marshmallow down. Make that left leg nice and long. You might feel it just opening up through the left hip a little bit more. Good. Hold it for 1 more breath there. Good. Gently lower the right foot to the floor. Bend the left leg up, and we're going to turn onto our side. I'm going to give you a couple of options. You can either stay on your side. So if you know your shoulder's not happy, you can stay on your side. If you're happy on that left shoulder, we're going to, whichever side you're on, I don't mind which shoulder, but what I don't want you to do is injure your shoulder. Or if you know you've got a weak shoulder, load it more so it irritates it at all. And so there are a couple of levels of this. You can either bend your knees so that from your shoulder to your knees is a nice long straight line. If you want to load a little bit more, then you can lengthen all the way through. But again, it depends on your shoulder and your core strength a little bit as well. So maybe I'll come into this position to start with, have a go. If you find it easy, then we'll move into that next level. So make sure that elbow's directly underneath the shoulder, and just make sure that shoulder isn't up towards your ear. So you're going to pull that shoulder away from your ear. You're going to think about that nice long spine. You're going to just come into a nice neutral pelvis. So making sure you're not arching or hollowing or curling through that lower back. You're coming to that nice neutral position. So lengthen down through the back, gently pull up through the front. We're going to engage through the core muscles. And then from there, breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to lift into a little side plank. Now from here, you can either keep the leg bent and come up and down, or you can lengthen that leg and just lift and lower, keeping this spine nice and long and this hip lifted away from the mat. Good. And think about lifting with the heel, lowering with the toes, and just make sure you're not leaning up towards the ceiling. So imagine you're almost, if someone's looking down from above, they can maybe see slightly more of your back than your front, because that will make you fire up through the outside of this bottom cheek on the top here. Good. Let's do a couple more. And relax. Good. Remember, if your shoulders starting to feel a little bit, you can come into this position and just work here. So slightly less low through the core, but you should still be firing up through the back of the hip there. Okay? So find a position that works for you. And then, so again, if your shoulder's not happy on this, you can come into our clown position where we're going to bring the feet in line with hips and shoulders and lift that top knee up and lower down. But you're going to try and again keep the spine nice and long, little gap in between your waist and the mat, and really fire up through the outside of the hip. If your shoulder's okay in this position, then drop the shoulder blade down, pelvis nice and neutral, so making sure you're nice and long through the back, putting up through the front. Breath in as you breathe out, engage through the core muscles. Breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to lift up. Breath in as you breathe out, tap that hip down to touch the mat, and then squeeze and lift up. So you're not taking your body weight onto it, you're literally just tapping so the hip touches, squeeze and lift up. Tap down, squeeze and lift up. Now remember, if your shoulder's not happy, come into your clown position where you're just working through the upper hip. Here. Good. If your shoulders are okay, then just working on keeping that nice neutral alignment, keeping the core switched on, working through that lower hip and waist. Good. 2 more. And down. Good. Well done. And relax. Good. Okay, so we're going to swap sides. And again, see how your shoulder is. I don't want it aggravating shoulders. So if you need to come down and work in a abduction side lift here, then work here. Okay? Elbow underneath the shoulder, neck nice and long, so don't squish that shoulder up towards your ear, drop it down. Pelvis nice and neutral, so lengthen down through the back, pull up through the front gently. Core switched on, so breath in as you breathe out, engage through the core muscles, belly button in. We're going to lift up. And you can either lift and lengthen here, lift and lower here, or you can lengthen through that lower leg and lift and lower here. So think about that spine being nice and long. If someone's looking down from above, they should maybe see a little bit more of your back than your front, because if you're working through your front, it'll mean that you're firing up through here. And actually, I want you to try and fire up through the back of the hip. Keep that tailbone tucked down. So imagine you've got a tail tuck in between your legs. And remember, if your shoulder's not happy, just come flat onto the mat. Good. Last couple. And relax. Good, well done. Again, if your shoulder's not happy for this next one, you can come into your clown position, where we're keeping that pelvis neutral, little gap in between your waist and the mat, nice distance between hip and pelvis and rib cage, and working on that lift and through the hip. Okay, if you're happy onto that elbow, then just make sure that shoulder's down away from your ear, pelvis nice and neutral, core switched on. It's a bit man outside, sorry. And then from there, we're going to lift up, tap that hip down, and then lift back up again. Tapping down, lift back up. Not allowing your weight to go through that hip, but just touching the mat and lifting up. So you'll touch through the thigh, hip, and then lift up. Good. Make sure you're not arching through that lower back, so pull that belly button and lower rib cage in towards the spine. Imagine you've got a tail, tuck it between your legs. And if your shoulder's not happy, then have a rest or come into your plan. Keeping that nice long spine. Good. Last couple. Tap down and lift up. Good, well done. And relax off. Good. Okay. Let's just turn onto your front. And actually in this position, I'm going to get you to just come onto your elbows. And just thinking about your back position while you're on your front, because actually it's quite easy just to arch through that lower back. And I just want you to think about gently lifting the belly button and pushing that pubic bone into the mat. So you're just thinking about lengthening through the lower back, maybe squeezing the bottom gently, just trying to extend through. So think about breathing out, lengthen down through the tailbone, pull up through the belly button, breathing in, coming back through. And go with what's comfortable. If that's too much through your back, you can come down onto your front and just work on a little bit of pelvic tilting in that position. Just lengthening and shortening through the lower back. Good. Let's do a couple more. Good. And then just come into a position where you're resting in that position. So if you're on your front, just rest in that position, but then maybe just bring your hands underneath your shoulders. If you're already up into this position, just bring your hands back slightly. And I'm going to get you to take a breath in and gently, just as far as your back is comfortable to go, as you breathe out, starting to push up off your hands slightly. So if you're completely flat, you're literally just going to start to push up a little bit and coming back down again, breathing out, pushing up. But listen to your back. Do what your back feels comfortable doing. We don't often work into that extension through the lower back, but actually just working gently into it is nice, is good for your back. Trying to maintain that mobility, which is normal for the back, but we just don't push into it very much. So work with what you're comfortable doing, not into discomfort, but just a bit of a stretch. Good. And if you can, if you're comfortable to, just hold it there for a minute. So think about pulling that belly button in, lengthening through the back. Hold it for 2 breaths. One more. And then lower down. Good, well done. And then bring your hands underneath your forehead. And from here, we're just going to come into a little leg extension. So just thinking about that pelvis becoming nice and neutral. Think about lengthening down through the back. So imagine you've got a tail, tuck it between your legs, and that should make you pull up through that belly button as well. I'm going to turn my head to the side just so you can hear me, but if you want to just rest your forehead onto your hands, nose down towards the mat, that's a better way to work in terms of spinal alignment. And then so from there, keeping that pelvis nice and neutral, we're going to take a breath in. As you breathe out, pull up through the pelvic floor in through the belly button. Breath in. As you breathe out, you're just going to do a little lift and lower, alternating legs. Breathing out as you lift, in as you lower. And I want you to think about working through that bottom cheek. So it's not a big movement. You're literally just almost taking the weight off the thigh and coming back down again. Weight off the thigh, coming back down again. Trying to keep that back nice and long. Working through the bottom muscles. Breathing out as you lift, in as you lower. Make sure you're not arching through that lower spine. So try and keep that belly button. Just think about, imagine pulling that belly button away from the mat slightly. Let's do 2 more on either side. Last one. Good, well done. And relax up. Good, well done. Okay, and then we're just going to come up onto all fours. Hands just slightly in front of the shoulders today. Shoulders down away from your ears, spine nice and long. We're just then going to come into your cat-cow. So chin to chest. Lift that breastbone up towards the ceiling. Lift that belly button up towards the ceiling. Imagine you've got a tail tuck it between your legs. Big curve through the back. And then we're going to go through the other way. Lowering belly button, lowering breastbone, and drawing your nose forward, a line forward with your nose, lifting through your tailbone, and then tucking down the other way. Lifting through. Good. And lowering back down. Let's do one more in either direction. Good, well done. Lengthen through the spine. And then from there, I'm just going to get you to lengthen your left leg back behind you. So nice long stretch from the back of the heel all the way to the top of your head. And then from there, you're going to keep that spine nice and neutral. So make sure you've not arched or curled through the spine. Nice long spine. We're going to draw a line with that left toe across to the right side. So you're just opening up through the outside of that left hip. And if you want, just turn to look at that left toe over your right shoulder. You just open up through that left side. Hold it for one more breath. And then gently come back through to the center. Bend the left knee. Make sure that spine's nice and long. Extend through the right leg. And then keeping that nice long line from the heel to the top of your head, crown of the head. You're going to glide that right toe over to the left side and look down towards those toes. Maybe with the left shoulder, so opening up through the right side of the body. Good. Just hold it for one more breath there. And gently bring the toes back to the centre. Bend the knee. Good. So we're going to bring the left toes in between your fingertips. And then from there, I'm going to get you just to bring your hands, if you're happy to, onto your knee. We're going to think about making sure we're not arching through the lower back. So imagine you've got a tail, tuck it between your legs. And that should already maybe open up through the front of the right hip. And from there, nice tall spine, lifting that breastbone up, pulling the belly button in. You can just increase that stretch by pushing the hips forward slightly, but make sure you're not leaning into it. So you want to come up really nice and tall and almost just really think about lengthening through the back, pushing through the front. You should really feel it open up through the right hip. Good. Work with your breath. Just relaxing into that stretch, but make sure you're not arching through the lower back. Good. If you want to, you can, it depends on your balance, how stable you feel, you can just bring your fingertips up towards the ceiling, look gently up towards the fingertips, or up towards the ceiling, just opening up through that whole front line. Drop those shoulders down away from your ears. Good. And then gently bring your fingertips back down. And then from there, we're going to lengthen through the front leg and take your sitting bones back towards the wall behind you. You can put your hands onto your onto the mat if you want, or onto the leg. and lengthening through. And you should feel a stretch through the back of the left hamstring. Good. And that left leg doesn't have to be straight. So actually, if you've got a slight bend in it and you take your chest down towards your thigh, you should feel it more through the mid portion of the hamstring rather than kind of behind the knee if you're all the way straight. So actually bending the knee and taking chest to thigh, it's a nice hamstring stretch with that mid portion of hamstrings. Good. One more breath in there. And then soften the knee. Bring that foot in underneath your knee slightly. Rest your elbow or your hands onto your knee. And you're going to push that knee forward over the toes, keeping the heel down. And you should feel a stretch from the back of the calf. Good. Just hold it there. One more breath. Good, well done. And then relax that leg down. So we're going to bring your right foot in between your hands. We're going to gently bring your hands onto your knee. Think about lengthening down through the tailbone, pushing forward through the front of the hip to open up through the front of the left hip. So making sure you're not leaning forward here, but you're lengthening and pushing through, opening up through the hip flexors, which you worked hard today with those single leg lowers earlier. Just really making sure that you open up through the front of the hip. Good. And then from there, if you're happy to, you don't have to, you can keep your hands onto your knee, but if you're happy to, bring your hands up towards the ceiling and then just look up towards your fingertips, drop those shoulders down away from your ears and open up through that front line. Hold it for one more breath. And then gently relaxing down. Good. We're going to then push your sitting bones out towards the back wall. Keep that right knee soft. Take your chest towards your thigh. You can walk those toes forward a little bit if you want to. And you should feel a stretch of the middle of the back of the leg. And just work with your breath in that position and relax into it. Good. Just hold it for one more breath. And then we're going to bring that right foot back underneath the knee. Keep the heel down. You can either keep your fingertips on the floor, or you push your, have your hands onto your elbows onto your thigh, and you're going to push that knee forward over the toe so you feel a stretch from the back of the calf. Just hold it for one more breath there. Good. And then we're going to gently come down onto all fours again. And we're going to come into a downward dog. So we're going to just gently
lifting the knees up, lowering heels down towards the mat. Doesn't matter if they don't come anywhere near the mat. You're going to take the sitting bones back towards the wall behind you. Try and bring the shoulders away from the ears. And really opening up through that posterior chain, so through the back, through the hamstrings. And again, keep breathing. If you want to, you can just gently walk the feet, so lifting one heel and lowering the other. So just opening up through the back, one leg at a time. And if you're happy to come into that position of rest, in that position where you drop your heels towards the mat, they don't have to touch the mat, but just opening up through the calf, through the hamstrings, through the back. Good, hold it for one more breath. And then you can either come back onto your knees and up into standing, or if you're happy to, you're just going to gently walk, soften the knees and walk the toes forward towards your hands. And so you're in that kind of forward fold position where you're just standing, opening up through the back and folding through, so you're halfway through your roll down. And then just soften the knees and gently roll up from the pelvis, one vertebra at a time. All the way up tall. You can either have your feet hip width apart, or if you're happy to, you can bring those feet all the way together. Drop those shoulders down. Just try and turn the palms forward. Open the palms up. Open up through the front of the shoulders. When you think about lengthening through the back, so tuck that tailbone down, lengthen through the crown of the head, drop the shoulders down, pulling up gently through those tummy muscles, lifting gently through the breastbone. Just take a couple of breaths in there. Good, well done, and relax off. Good, well done team, good work. I shall see you again next week. Take care, bye.